It's good to be with you all today. Also, I want to acknowledge NYSA's Association Board of Directors, Executive Director, Pat Kane, and to all of you, all of our nurses, our caretakers here today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is good to be with you and appreciate everything you bring to the table, appreciate who you are and the work that you all do every single day. I want to just start by saying that nurses are the heart and soul of our healthcare system. You promote healthy lifestyles, advocate for patients, provide health education, and direct, compassionate, one-on-one care, fostering relationships with your patients. Your caregivers, patient advocates, specialists, record keepers, and researchers, you perform an emotional labor that not everyone is capable of performing. A labor that requires empathy. Empathy. The time you spend with your patients provides you with unique insights into your patients' wants and needs, behaviors, health habits, and concerns, making you an important advocate in their care. You deal with the magic of new life, and you also deal with the soul-crushing reality of death. And I know that the latter takes an emotional toll on you. Nursing is one of the most emotional jobs a person can have, and it requires incredible strength. It requires the capacity to love and to care about others, to care despite the dangers posed to yourself and personal sacrifice. And that is why nursing requires a special kind of person. You bring a unique perspective and a lot of love into this role. And yet, our nurses have had to fight hard over the years to get the respect and recognition you deserve. Dealing with COVID has brought nursing and the healthcare profession to the forefront of our collective conscience. It's been a taxing few years for everyone as we dealt with COVID, but none have been so deeply impacted as those working in healthcare. You have been on the front lines of this battlefield working day and night nonstop. I know at the height of the pandemic, you all had your own anxieties before we had vaccines. And in some of those darkest hours, it was rough. When you had to worry about putting your own children or your own parents at risk by putting on that uniform and going to work every day. But you did it. And you did it with courage. When others were working remotely, you didn't have that choice. You had to show up because you were saving lives each and every day. Yes. You have endured unimaginable physical and emotional stress as you rose to meet the difficult and demanding circumstances presented by COVID. And as we move out of the deepest days of COVID into a new reality, we, the people, which means the government, must proceed with a heightened sense of prioritizing your work, not just during a pandemic, but every day. We must meaningfully support our healthcare workforce and strengthen our healthcare infrastructure. New York State has more than 350,000 nurses working as registered professional nurses, licensed practical nurses, clinical nurse specialists, and nurse practitioners across all healthcare settings that make up the backbone of our state's healthcare industry. But we still have a nursing shortfall that must be overcome. Overtime hours have persisted for many of our nurses who are often working multiple shifts in sheer exhaustion. The governor and I recognize that to help provide safe medical environments for all New Yorkers, we must fill these healthcare worker shortfalls, especially when it comes to the nursing profession. The health of every New Yorker depends on a strong, stable, equitable healthcare system, and at the very foundation are the industry's workers who've been asked to do the impossible and are continuing to do so more than 2 years after the start of the pandemic. While it is increasingly becoming more of a problem in our urban areas, it has been especially true in some of our more rural communities as well. A lot of our rural communities see their younger population moving away in search of opportunities elsewhere. That's led to many challenges when it comes to maintaining a solid workforce across many sectors, but namely health and human services. The problem existed before the pandemic, but COVID-19 certainly exacerbated it and created a much more dire reality. Unfortunately, there's no one solution to this problem. It requires a multi-system approach. And we are working on those solutions to retain, rebuild, and grow our healthcare workforce through wages, bonuses, cost of living adjustments, strengthening career pipelines, and expanding access and resources for training and education. The goal is to boost the workforce by 20% over the next 5 years and improve the healthcare industry for all New Yorkers through a range of incentives. This year, we made a historic $20 billion multi-year healthcare investment in the fiscal year 2023 state budget. Of that, $1.2 billion will exclusively fund frontline healthcare worker retention bonuses. Yes. In addition, Governor Hochul announced the Nurses for Our Future scholarship late last year. The scholarship will allow 1,000 new or current healthcare workers to earn an associate's or a bachelor's degree in nursing at a New York State public college or university. The investments are intended to help rebuild our healthcare system by raising healthcare workers' pay, improving their workforce infrastructure, and providing incentives that will attract more people to the workforce. Creating better working conditions for healthcare workers is also a priority. In addition to strengthening the healthcare workforce, infrastructure improvements are essential to not only enhancing the work environment for healthcare workers, but also drastically improving patient care and wait times. This year's budget established a new $2.4 billion investment in infrastructure improvements for hospitals, nursing homes, ambulatory care centers, community-based centers, and other eligible healthcare facilities. In addition to this, $3.9 billion in funding over 4 years, an 88% increase over the prior 4 years, is dedicated to providing aid to hospitals still struggling financially from the COVID pandemic. Now, during my time in Congress, for those who don't know, I think you might have mentioned this, I spent 2 terms in Congress representing New York's 19th congressional district, the 8th most rural congressional seat out of 435 in the entire country. I made a point to listen before I spoke. I had a healthcare advisory committee that I met with monthly or at least bi-monthly, filled with healthcare workers, including nurses, who can give me in real time what was happening on the ground, and I can make real decisions based on that information. I believe in listening before anything else, really hearing and understanding what the communities I represent want and need. Now, admittedly, my district had 11 counties. New York has 62, so more ground to cover, more people to listen to, more communities to build with. And I'm excited to do that work. Because even before I became lieutenant governor, healthcare has always been a very important issue for me. And during my time in Congress, I was and still am a supporter of achieving universal healthcare and getting beyond the monopoly our profit-driven system has on care. Now, I'm almost done, but let me say this. This is why supporting labor and our unions matters so much. It is the counterweight. Labor and unions are the counterweight to the profit-driven corporate greed. It's the counterweight. So I want to conclude with some thoughts on unions. This convention's theme, one strong union, one united voice. It's a big source of pride for New York that we are the most unionized state in America. And with 42,000 frontline nurses, NYSNA is New York's largest union and professional association for registered nurses. And I appreciate that this year, this will be the first time in your union's history that over 30,000 private and public sector members will be bargaining at the same time. And it is the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic began that the majority of your members will be renegotiating contracts. There is strength in numbers. There is strength in numbers. And here in New York, we stand by our unions. I am a big supporter of collective bargaining and protecting the right to organize. When I was in Congress, I helped pass the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, which combats the right to work laws that are plaguing our country. With a united voice, workers can fight for safer work environments and better wages and protect hard-earned benefits. Now, I'm going to take a personal moment here to let you know that I know this from personal experience. I understand what it means to have good, reliable, good-paying jobs for working families. And you need those if you want upward mobility. You need those if you want to provide for your family, and you need labor and you need unions to make sure that that happens. My parents, when I was growing up in Schenectady, worked for GE. They became state employees. And they had the kind of jobs that they could rely on. The kind of jobs that allowed us to move from one apartment to the next, a bigger apartment, a safer neighborhood, to buying our first house when I was a freshman in high school. They had the kind of jobs where they could send me off as a latchkey kid to school and say, let yourself back in when you're done, do your homework, leave it on the counter. When we come home from our jobs, we'll review your homework and make sure that you can do better than us as you come of age. And I was able to build off of that success because they had good paying, reliable jobs that provided predictability in the household. I was able to go from cutting coupons and ironing patches on my jeans and walking to school and feeling a certain way about that, to then going off to Colgate and earning a Rhodes Scholarship and getting my law degree at Harvard, and then surprising my parents by becoming a hip-hop artist for 5 years. and then working as a litigator at a law firm, and then becoming the first person of color to represent upstate New York in Congress, all from these humble beginnings because my parents had the kind of jobs with the kind of wages they could build on. I could build on. And you need labor. You need unions to make that happen. At the end of the day, when our unions are strong, our working families are strong, and I want nothing more than to make our unions stronger than ever. That's how you get upward mobility. Now, somewhere between when I was growing up and now, organized greed started getting the better of organized labor. And we haven't been right as a result. We haven't. But as we've come out of COVID and we reprioritize and think about what truly matters, not consumption, care. Not greed, service. Not hate, love. These things have to matter again. They have to. Our democracy depends on it. Our principles depend on it. I'm a father, twin boys, 9 years old. You can pray for me. I think about the world they're going to inherit. I think about your children's world, your grandchildren's world. It concerns me. Forget the left-right politics, right, wrong. The decency, the integrity, the honesty, the civility, character. These things have to matter again. Because by the time you get talking about policy, what's it anchored in? The last bit I'm going to say is I grew up in a church. I was in church every Sunday. You probably can tell by how I'm speaking. Macedonia Baptist Church is where I grew up. My pastor was Reverend Comethier, and I say that to say there's a moral foundation that has to matter. It has to. I don't care for what angle you come at it, but at the end of the day, you gotta believe in something bigger, and right and wrong. And we have an opportunity right now, as we come out of a very, very hard period of our reality here with the pandemic, to rethink what we've been and who we want to be. And New York can certainly lead in that regard. And the work that you all do and the example that you all have set over the last 2.5 years should be the inspiration. It should be the inspiration. So let me just say thank you. I hope I didn't go too long. I appreciate you all, and God bless you. Love you.